Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com.
Welcome back, Washington, D.C. Metro, to Real Estate 360 Live. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined today by my guest, Cammarosano, the General Manager of HomeGain. Reminder that the show is here to build Washington, D.C. Metro's markets by giving you good free advice. If you ever have any questions, whether it's in regards to getting your credit straightened out to be able to purchase a home or refinance a home, whether it's, like I said, trying to avoid foreclosure because you've been unsuccessful and trying to get the bank to modify your loan for the last 6 months to a year, as many of you have, the best number to reach out to us to help you with any of these issues is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. And remember, that's an off-air phone number. When you call, just leave your name, contact information, and we'll be glad to get back to you by the end of the day. Or you can visit us via the web at realestate360live.com. That's realestate360live.com. On the right-hand side, there's an Ask a Question button. Just click on that and ask your question and leave your contact information, and we'll be glad to reply to you by the end of the day. I want to jump in. There was another survey done by the National Association of Realtors, and this is done pretty regularly, where they survey asking real estate agents if appraisals are holding back home sales. 65% of realtors who responded said they had experienced no problems related to appraisals over the previous 3 months, but 11% said that they had a contract canceled because an appraised value came in below the negotiated purchase price. 9% reported a delay in a transaction, and 15% said a contract had to be renegotiated because of a low valuation. So if 15% said they had to renegotiate and another 11% canceled because of an appraised value, that's about 26% of those appraisals are coming out and having issues. Now, as if it's not hard enough to obtain a home loan, then you throw another third party, the appraisal company or appraiser, that goes out there, and many times home prices can be, overpriced, right? Obviously, people are always trying to get as much for their home as they possibly can. Louis, would you agree that, just because a real estate agent lists a house at a certain price doesn't mean that it's really worth that?
Yeah, it could be. The HomeGain does surveys that show that home sellers think their homes are worth far more than they actually are, and more than the agent thinks that they are. So, yeah, I have a question, Ryan.
Sure.
Those numbers are pretty compelling to show that appraisers are holding back the market. But historically, what are those? Have they done that survey before and shown similar results? 26% of deals maybe not going through because of appraisal issues.
Well, it was only 11% that had canceled, and
right.
the other 15. But yeah, these numbers from the other surveys that I had seen prior with them, they're pretty consistent because, see, appraisal problems, no matter what market you're in, they always tend to be an issue, but they've been an issue for the last 5 years because we've had these distressed sales. You have short sales and foreclosures. So anytime you have those type of distressed sales, and then you have the other guy on the street that, has his house fully paid off, he's selling his house as a normal sale, the appraiser's going to go out and they're going to say, okay, well, if I'm going to look for normal sales first. Now, they're supposed to do this anyway. They're supposed to look for other like normal sales, and if they can't find anything, and if they're forced to use those, then they use those, but then make adjustments for using those as distressed sales. So for the last 5 years, obviously, this has been a big issue because, the appraiser might go out there and say, I'm not going to use any of these distressed sales. I'm going to find the best like comps that are just regular sales that are within a mile of the subject property, and I'm going to use those. Well, they do that. Then it goes back to the lender where the underwriter gets to basically look over the appraisal and decide whether they feel that is an accurate value for this home. Well, they have all kind of means to look up values. I mean, they'll use their online software. Many of them have used many different companies, but they'll say, okay, this property should be this price, and it's got to be within a certain tolerance of where the appraised value came in. Or they'll see that there is another property that's 2 doors down that's a foreclosure that's selling for $50,000 less, and then they're going to say, well, how come you didn't use that comp? So not all of it should depend on the actual appraiser, because in many instances it's the underwriters that are critically looking at these appraisals, and because their neck is on the line as well.
Yeah,
so
I think that the home seller and the realtor are complaining about having distressed properties included in the comparables, but that reflects a portion of the market.
Yeah, it does. And, so many people will ask me, so what can I do to try and, prevent this from happening? Well, there's not much you can do, because now that from all the mortgage changes that they've had now, where appraisals go through appraisal management companies and you have no idea who that is, the only advice that I can give you is to make sure that the agent that you're working with knows to, make sure that maybe they're there when the appraiser shows up to the front door and asks for proper identification to make sure that they are a licensed appraiser, and that, they're not from a different state. I mean, if they're in Maryland and going to do a Virginia appraisal, I think I might have a little problem with that.
Yeah,
so
I think you should ask to see the comps that they're using, maybe direct them to other ones if you don't think they're appropriate.
Yeah.
And also price the home appropriately in the beginning.
Absolutely. Price the home in the beginning. And you know what, Louis, you can even take it a step further. You can actually, if you wanted to, you could actually have an appraisal done prior to you listing your property, right? Now, obviously, that costs some money, but, many times, and this is what I've done personally, you can partner with appraisers that will do, appraisals for like half the cost of what they would be, just to have them go out there just to help you set your list price, because honestly, they're going to be the ones that are in control of where that value ends up. The realtor and the homeowner can ultimately decide to list the house for $400,000, but if the comps only support $380,000, very rarely will somebody come out of pocket with $20,000, and the difference between what they can get a loan for and what the actual asking price is. Now, in some markets in the Washington, D.C. metro area, like Arlington and Old Town Alexandria, they have a lot of cash buyers. They can bid the prices up, and as long as there's not a loan involved, it doesn't matter anyway. You don't need an appraisal.
Right.
And that's where we really start to see people being able to push values, because if you're just thinking there's going to be like a gradual appreciation over a period of time of 1% to 2% or 3%, an appraiser can make adjustments for that. But if, let's just say, in Alexandria, there was a house on the street that went for $500, another one for $510, and then all of a sudden there's the same type of property, it sold for $550 and it was cash. They can now use that as a new comp, so that value could potentially be jumped up $40,000. And that's what I really see happening in a lot of areas, but in areas where you don't have those cash deals and the values aren't moving as fast, it's a little bit more difficult. But I think that it is smart. I mean, you can, if you chose to, get an appraisal ahead of time and kind of see where the comparables are. Now, obviously, that's a moving target, and things are always closing. I mean, you could have something that's under contract that's not going to settle for another month or two, and you've got to kind of sit back and wait. What I personally do, I reach out to the other agents and try to get as much information as possible. Hey, I see that your listing's under contract. Would you mind letting me know what that's under contract at, so I can get a better idea of where I can gauge to price this home? I think a lot of it, Louis, is just trying to get as much intelligence as you possibly can and make an educated decision on where to place the price of your home.
You got to have your information lined up before you go into that battle.
Yeah, and the biggest mistake that I've ever seen is that agents will price a home based upon what else is active on the market. Okay, just because there's 5 homes that are active at $380,000, but the last thing that sold in there was $370,000, what makes you think you're going to get the $380,000? Appraisers don't use active comps. Now, they can include them in the report to kind of show, what else is on the market in that area, but underwriters, for the lender, they're going to be always looking for what's closed, what is closed and settled comps, and what was the sales price, and was there any seller concessions for those? So it's
on the market just indicate the wishful thinking, perhaps, of the sellers.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, it is ultimately the seller's decision as to where they price their home. Now, I would say I think that a lot of the time this is such an emotional transaction that sellers tend to overprice their homes or think their homes are worth more than they really are, as your survey has indicated. So, I think that it's important to try and remove some of the emotion from this and be realistic. A lot of the times these sales can end up falling apart due to an appraisal issue because the appraisal comes in $10,000 lower, and the agent had told the buyer or the seller initially that they thought that they were going to get that. It comes back and they don't get it, and now it makes them a little upset. And now all of a sudden they have to renegotiate that sales price, and then they don't want to do it. They're just like, well, I'm not going to sell my house. I think that if you start up front and say that this could be a potential problem, you lay out all the comps. I mean, you obviously can't control what the appraiser ends up doing, but you can kind of mitigate a lot of the potential problems that are there. Guys, we're coming up on the end of the show, but I want to thank you, Louis, for coming on. Many of you guys that are out there that are potentially looking, to start your home search, Louis has a great site and place to go. Can you tell them a little bit about that, Louis?
Sure. It's homegain.com. As Ryan mentioned, you can find a realtor at homegain.com through our unique system where you can compare local agents anonymously. You can check out home values and home prices just by typing in your home's address or the address of a home that you're interested in. You can check out homes for sale, new homes, condos, foreclosures. And you can also check out our recently released third quarter home value survey. All that's available at the homegain.com website. If you go there, you can get your real estate search started, and you can learn a lot about what's going on in the current market in your area.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Louis. Thanks a lot. All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again next Monday from 9 to 10 a.m. And in the meantime, if you have any questions for me, the phone number is 877-245-2030. That's 877-245-2030. Thanks a lot, and have a great week.